Hi everybody, this is Mr. McCreary, and this is part two of our series of videos on Chapter 2, Cultural Diversity. Again, this chapter is made up of two sections, the meaning of culture and then cultural variation. And of course, I will be adding some other current controversies related to the things that we touch on in class. Today's part is going to deal with a quick explanation as to what culture is, and then briefly talk about the difference between material culture and non-material culture. As it says here, culture is all the learned, socially transmitted customs, knowledge, material objects, and behavior of a particular group of people. Now, I put the term socially transmitted in quotes because humans really do not pick up any type of cultural information genetically. Everything that is passed on from one generation to the next in terms of culture has to be transmitted, or it has to be taught or passed on in some fashion. Nothing in terms of culture is genetically programmed and therefore known at birth. All the things that we do as a culture, whether it's language, our norms, our values, all the other aspects of a culture has to be passed on through social means. And so that's where the phrase socially transmitted comes from. As it says here, culture includes many different things. It can be ideas, it can be values, customs, artifacts, and other pieces of technology. And as I mentioned before, culture can be taking the form of material culture as well as non-material culture. So let's briefly take a look at each one. Material culture refers to the physical, or the things that you can actually see in the daily lives of a particular group of people. So all the examples there, every culture is going to have their version of these things. Every culture is going to have their food that you can actually see, their form of housing, or factories in this case, or any other type of occupation, any raw materials that are important to that particular culture, any tools and any other technology that that group of people uses. Those are all able to be seen, and therefore that makes up the material culture of a group. Non-material culture are generally things that you cannot see. These refer to the ways in which people use technology. It can also include the things that are mentioned here. Any of the customs, the beliefs, styles of government, patterns of communication, the different philosophies, the various laws and procedures of a particular culture. Those things are not seen, but those are certainly just as important as any of the things that you can see. So non-material culture certainly plays a huge part in our lives, even though we generally can't put a finger on it and actually see it in most cases. Now, I use this example in class. Let's say you're walking along and hiking, and you come across a cave, and on the wall is drawn this particular piece of artwork. Now, of course, we can assume that this culture may have dated back many, many hundreds of years, but just by this one picture alone, we can see examples of material culture and non-material culture. The obvious material culture that would be important to this particular group of people, we could assume that horses and would be important to this culture. The style of housing with the teepees down there, style of clothing, other animals that are important to their particular society, food sources with the corn at the very top and maybe some sort of fruit in the trees there. So you can get a general idea as to what the material portion of their culture is by looking at this one picture. But we can also see some non-material things. We can possibly make the assumption that this group of people has some form of religion in their lives, or some sort of ceremonial process that takes place. We also might be able to make the assumption that this group of people is fairly close-knit. They take care of one another. That may be seen in how close the teepees or the houses are actually together, insinuating that they are a close-knit people. We also might even go as far as to say that they might believe in monogamy. Each person in this picture tends to be paired up with someone else. And although we don't know for sure, this could be a case that they believe in some sort of marriage or monogamy. So looking at one picture, we can determine quite a bit about a primitive or ancient culture, not only in the material things that were important to that culture, but also the various non-material things that were important to that culture as well.